It's important to note the fact that some of his children have stayed behind, and the official reason is that they're at school there and this is why they stayed. But at the same time, the fact that they haven't been able to leave in the same way that his wife has been able to leave with him, and his eldest son, who's studying in London, has also been able to meet with him in France, should be an indication that anything that comes out from Hariri from now on is also with him bearing in mind the fact that his children are still being held in Saudi Arabia. So as far as the way that I'm interpreting it, at least, is that he's not completely free yet.
OK, and Nour, what difference do you think it will make to the overall situation there in Lebanon that Hariri is now in France?
I think it's definitely one step closer to getting him back to Beirut. And as you pointed out, he said that he should be coming back by Independence Day. But this only comes after threats of possibly cancelling the Independence Day celebrations, which I think would also be another point against what the Saudis are doing. So in order to keep the situation calm, he said that he's going to come back in order to hand in his resignation and to deal with the situation on the ground. At the same time, I also think it's important to note that France has taken a very active step in mediating this particular situation. And I think that this is something that we would be looking at much further from now, at how they're going to continue to mediate between Saudi Arabia and Lebanon.
And what kind of faith do you think the Lebanese have in this mediation of France?
I think they definitely have a lot more faith than possibly 2 weeks ago, because obviously as the situation has continued to progress and the issue of him, or the question of him being detained or moving around freely, is leaning much more towards him being, or him having been detained. The fact that France is playing a role means that this is brought to the attention of the international community, and that Lebanon will have the backing of the international community, or at least most members within the international community behind it, to make sure that there isn't more interference in Lebanese affairs. So I think from a Lebanese civilian perspective on the ground, there's definitely faith and hope in the fact that the French can play a positive role in this.
And what would you say are the overall dangers for Lebanon if this crisis continues and Hariri, if he doesn't resign, as he says he will?
I think that there's a lot that the Saudis can possibly play with. We've got the economic situation, but right at the beginning, the head of the central bank and the Lebanese president, you tried to deal with that situation to start looking at alternatives if the Gulf was to suddenly start putting economic pressure on Lebanon. At the same time, there have been certain circles voicing security concerns, but security agencies have said that the situation is under control. The option of war has been removed from the table. I think the Israelis have made it very clear that they won't be doing Saudi's bidding in launching a war on Lebanon. And at the same time, I think people are, in a way, tired of this level of interference from any country. I mean, we've seen it in the past with the Gulf, where, you know, every time something happens in Lebanon, they threaten economically, they withdraw their civilians. So this is not a new attack on Lebanon. And I think, frankly, people are just sick and tired of the fact that this is happening. So they're looking at trying to minimize the damage and try and figure out a way that doesn't cause even more problems for the country.